What's cracking? Dylan here. Welcome to the channel. I've got the Evolution Power Tools S210CCS handheld metal cut saw. A little backstory before I jump into this. I'm working on a Bobcat bucket modification project where I'm taking an old smooth bucket and turning it into a DIY rock bucket to sift out some of the big rocks out of 30 yards of dirt that I just had dropped off. So I'm exhausting my options. I've used my plasma cutters and they have done okay. It's just a little bit too thick. It's 2 layers of 3/16 steel, which these just won't burn through that second layer very easily. I've been using my skill saw for years with a metal cut blade on it, and it works okay for thinner sheet metal, but something about it, it just does not want to go through this steel. The motor gets hot, I'm chewing through blades, so I've been using the Evolution miter saw over here for years and I absolutely love it. That thing cuts through steel like it's warm butter. And so as I ran out of options that I had on hand in the shop here, I reached out to Evolution, and I'm very grateful for them having accepted my proposal to try out their new handheld saw on my project. So let's get this thing open and see how it does compared to these other options that a lot of you might have at home, and just see how well this can do in comparison. Let's open it up.
Welcome to DIY Overdrive. Inside the box is exactly what you would expect from a tool like this. It's really not much to it. You've got the blade, the guide, the manual, and the tool. Immediately, when I picked this thing up, my first impression was that this thing is big. It's solid, it feels great. Of course, the size has everything to do with the fact that it's a bigger blade than the normal skill saw. The motor at first seemed like it was a lot larger, but it's mounted perpendicular to the blade instead of in line with it, which is just difference in design. The handles and everything feel very solid, and you can tell that this is a serious tool. One thing I really love about this saw, that has a little catch here for the metal shavings. We'll see how that does in a little bit. The fastener that keeps the blade on was already loose enough to remove it with your fingers, so getting the blade on was easy, and it's super convenient that the saw comes with the Allen wrench for tightening the blade down. It did take me a second to find the motor lock to keep this thing from spinning so I could tighten it down, but I found it. It's right there and back. With the blade on, let's put this, what I'll call the shavings catch cover thing, back on. Now let's put on the guide. I'm not going to need it for this project, but I like to test and know how things fit. It's nice that there's measurements on here for convenient measuring and cutting. There are other guides and blades. There's blades specific for materials like aluminum so that it doesn't gum up the blade. There's a blade for stainless steel. There's a blade for thinner mild steel. They've got you covered with everything that you might cut with this saw. I do have a roof rack video coming up soon where I'll be using some of these other items. Before I continue, if you would consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it, and thank you for those who do. The difference between my skill saw and this saw was absolutely night and day when cutting through this steel on the bucket. I started by cleaning up a couple of the cuts that I already had because they were either incomplete or a little boogery from the plasma cutter. But even when I did the plunge cuts and did a whole new cut, this thing worked phenomenally. I know I might sound a little bit like a fanboy, but I love Evolution's tools. I have been, like I said, using that miter saw for years now, and it just works so perfectly every single time, which is part of why I'm so excited about having this one in my arsenal now as well. Now the shavings catch works really well, better than I expected, and so much so that I couldn't actually get the door open. So I noticed that what you got to do if it's too full, you got to turn it upside down and bang the shavings out kind of the way that they came in. Once you get enough out, then that door will open and you can empty the rest out. With how many shavings came out of this thing, it's clear that while yes, there's some mess left over, it does catch quite a bit of it. So if you keep up on that and empty it enough, then it's going to really help you with mess control. You'll notice that I'm doing some of these cuts in 2 passes. That's because there's only a portion of the bucket where it's dual layer 3/16 and in some spots even with a 1/4 inch gap between the 2 plates. So I do 1 pass more shallow that gets all the way across, then I do an easier pass where I plunge that entire blade down in there and finish it off. If you've ever used what I call a hot blade that just sends sparks flying like crazy, imagine like an angle grinder to the max. The sparks that you see here are so minimal in compared to that style blade, but I will say be sure to wear eye protection because little shards might go flying a little bit. Honestly, nowhere near as much as with the skill saw because this actually catches a lot of it and directs it correctly, where the skill saw will just aimlessly throw shards everywhere. But still, please use eye protection. Now, here's an example of the skill saw just not wanting to do its job. With a brand new metal cut blade on it, it kind of does okay for a moment, but I went through 3 blades trying to get through 1 cut. Now, that should give you some perspective. And look how many sparks there are. That's because I've already done some cutting on this blade, but it's just not designed for this type of work. The Evolution saw, in comparison, flies through this bucket. Now, if I haven't convinced you yet, keep watching, but if I have, and if you're considering purchasing this saw, please consider using my affiliate link in the description below. It's by far the biggest help for keeping this channel alive. And thank you so much to everyone who does. Naturally, not every tool is perfect for every aspect of every job, so the thinner parts of the steel, I went back to the plasma cutter just to cut the shortcuts. In the areas where there was 2 layers, I used the angle grinder. After using the plasma cutter again for shaping some of these pieces that I cut out to go back on top and create my vertical support, I start welding the bucket together. After getting it all welded up, time to give it a test. You know, I had a feeling that this would work. I know it's not beautiful, but it honestly worked a lot better than I expected. Sometimes a rock would get stuck in between those vertical pieces, but it was easy enough to kick out, and it would often remedy itself by just falling out on the next scoop. I've never used an actual rock bucket before, so I imagine this is the right way. You pick it up, you shake it around. But I gotta say, I'm really pleased with the way this bucket turned out. I also have a video of that Best Arc plasma cutter. You can check that out. But this concludes the chronicles of the DIY rock bucket. Thank you all so much for watching. See you in the next one.